The boy you're looking at here is 13-year-old Nathan Breeze from Kinglake West in Victoria, just near Melbourne in Victoria. And Nathan died in the 2009 Black Saturday bushfires. He was actually one of 9 people who died while trying to shelter in a house, which is very unusual, but that was a really bad firestorm burning in catastrophic conditions. And Nathan actually died with his little 5-year-old sister, his 16-year-old sister, and his mum and another family all died in that house. There was 9 people trying to shelter in the house, and they all lost their lives. But of course this was an event that killed 173 people, and that was on Saturday the 7th of February 2009. Now, another boy who died about 10 years before Nathan was Jacob Wetterling from Minnesota. Now, Jake didn't die in a natural disaster. He died in a human-made disaster for him, which was he was abducted by a masked man who turned out to be a sexual predator, and he was murdered. After being sexually molested, he was shot. So Jake's experience would have been in a different, traumatizing and horrifying in a different way to Nathan's, but in the same way. In another way, it's almost the same kind of trauma. But that's not what I think primarily connects these boys. I think they are genuinely connected through love, basically, through a soul connection. And that's something I have felt for a while now, and I've got no doubt personally that they are together somewhere. They're obviously not here on Earth. They never met when they were on Earth. It's not possible that they could have, given that they were Nathan died 10 years after Jake died, and yeah, so they didn't know each other, but somehow I just know they are soulmates. And I have to give total credit to these boys for helping me make a prophecy. And that's a hobby I've had for a while, is flagging dates for severe weather. But this one's been a bit different. I picked the date 30th of April, which is Sunday. Jake was murdered on a Sunday. I picked the date 30th of April because it's 16 days after Good Friday. And I've got a feeling that Jesus, and I prefer to call Jesus Josh because I don't like the traditional Christian image of Jesus at all. But I have a feeling he died actually much younger than what the Bible and what religion teaches. I reckon Jesus died aged around 16. And that's why I picked the 30th of April, is because it's 16 days after Good Friday. That was my initial feeling. And it was a strong feeling, so I went with it. And I've said it's my prophecy, or Jake's prophecy and Nathan's prophecy, is for the 30th, Sunday the 30th of April, and Monday the 1st of May. Monday the 1st of May will be the date in Australia, and I've been saying that all along, but I'm pretty sure I've also been saying that it relates most probably to America. So it's really interesting when you do something like this, something crazy and wacky, and everyone thinks you're nuts. But then if the actual weather forecast starts to correlate with what, I didn't know what this was about. I said a natural event. I really didn't specify too much, even though it's tornado season in America now. I mentioned that the first thing I ever connected Jake to was volcanoes. And really, I just said a natural event, because I know when you try to get too specific, you're invariably wrong. So tornadoes are certainly possible this weekend in the United States, but looking at the forecast, and I really have to give credit to these boys, I think they have definitely given me an accurate concept of something that's going to happen in the future, and I think that's amazing. And they have definitely inspired me, they have helped me in all kinds of ways. And this is just a small thing really, but compared to how other ways they've helped me. And yeah, when I say they're connected through love and soulmates, yes, I do think Nathan and Jake both were gay boys. Both were naturally inclined to be same-sex attracted, and I think they are soulmates in every sense of the word. So yeah, as I said, when you do something like this and then you look at an unfolding situation that sort of correlates with what you've put together, it gets interesting. April 28 is the date of this article, which is Friday, and this is from the American Weather Channel. Life-threatening flash flood danger elevated through the weekend in the Ozarks, Mississippi Valley. So they've already been talking about a pretty bad flood danger, but they've elevated it even more. And if we just flick down, I'll just highlight a few things that I find interesting. I'm not going to read it all. So river flooding from this event could last several days. That's how much rain we're talking. Life-threatening flash flooding and river flooding will be widespread through this weekend in a broad swathe from the Ozarks to the mid-Mississippi Valley, as another round of heavy rain targets the rain-weary region. And this shows you the area that's currently under flood warnings. Flood warnings are the light green, just those little lines there, are actual flood warnings. Flood watch is this entire big green area. And you can see St. Louis is in there. I've mentioned a few times now St. Louis is of interest to me because it's actually featured in The Dark Tower by Stephen King, and I connected Jake Chambers in that story, who's also an 11-year-old boy. I connected him to the boy named Jake from my dreams, and that was before I even knew who Jake Wedling was. So, you know, when I found Jake, I knew I had found my Jake, but until then I didn't know who he was or where he was. But I knew there was a kid out there named Jake who I had a connection with. So, and that's going back, you know, to when Nathan was still alive. So local National Weather Service officers aren't mincing words about this weekend's threat. Areas that don't normally flood could flood in this event. So that's a spokesperson for Missouri from the Weather Service. Evacuations of flood and flash flood prone areas may be needed, and those interests along Arkansas rivers will need to monitor this developing hazardous weather situation. So strong words coming from the Weather Service. And the thing is, it's already saturated. That's what always makes it very dangerous. And we saw that recently in Australia with the remnants of Tropical Cyclone Debbie. Wednesday, a slow-moving line of thunderstorms triggered flash flooding in parts of the Ozarks. At least one water rescue occurred in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Excuse me if I butchered the pronunciation. On Wednesday, and a handful of roads in northern Arkansas and southern Missouri was shut down due to flooding. So, yeah, I mean, there's already flooding. There's already a bad situation over there with flooding. So to have huge amounts of rain on the way, on top of that, is definitely a dangerous situation, for sure. So before this latest deluge, much of a swathe from Oklahoma and southeast Kansas into the Carolinas and Virginia was soaked one or more times since the middle of the week. Some of these areas have picked up over 6 inches of rain, or 150 millimeters, in that 7-day period ending Wednesday morning, well above what would be considered average for a late April week. Oh yeah, well above. There you can see where the rain has fallen. And this is just showing departure from average rainfall. And when you start seeing those purple colours, you see why the Carolinas have had a lot of problems. Because you're talking 4 or 5 inches above what's average, above the average. So, you know, to have a big lot of rain coming in on areas that have already received a lot of rain, never a good thing. A few larger rivers remain near or above flood stage, including the Black River and White River in Arkansas, the Illinois River in western Illinois, the Mississippi River north of St. Louis to south of Davenport, Iowa, as well as many rivers in parts of southern Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Now, fortunately, the Carolinas are not going to get too much from this event. So heading into the weekend, the ingredients are lining up for a serious flash flood threat. The slow-moving nature of these ingredients is key, and a sharp, expansive southern plunge of the jet stream will be slow to lumber out of the western US. So there's a deep plume of moisture going to be pumped northward from the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. And in fact, atmospheric moisture values in Arkansas, Missouri, and Illinois may exceed their all-time records for the month of April. It's going to be very warm in areas too, where the rain is not falling. Some records could be challenged in some places. But this shows you the forecast rainfall through till Monday, and you can see widespread 3 to 5 inches, with some areas even getting 5 to 8 inches, and that's widespread. That's not localized amounts, that's widespread totals. So that is very heavy rain and very dangerous when that happens on areas that are already saturated. Flash flooding will continue to be a serious threat through Friday night, and is expected to become more widespread through the weekend, particularly over the Ozarks, where mountainous terrain will only enhance runoff and where the ground is already saturated. That's a huge point, that. Furthermore, river flooding along larger mainstream rivers is likely to persist for several days. Don't underestimate the danger. Flash flooding may not capture your attention like severe thunderstorms and tornadoes, but it can be just as dangerous. So there's an image of a flood that killed 20 campers back in 2010, and that was in Arkansas, and that was in June 2010. So no, you don't want to underestimate the danger from flash flooding. It can be extremely dangerous, and it actually accounts for all flooding. Accounts for quite a few deaths. 176 deaths in 2015 and 126 in 2016 in the United States. And 2/3 of that is people trying to drive through floodwaters. Best not to do that. So yeah, I'll play this video.
A lot of rain over the last couple of days in parts of Arkansas, Missouri, especially eastern Oklahoma as well, and that rain's caused flooding issues already, but we have a lot more rain that's going to come to some of these spots over the next couple of days. I'm telling you guys, I think there's going to be some really bad flooding in some of these areas, especially southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. Yes, we're still going to have a flooding threat a little bit farther toward the north and east, but this is a heck of a setup coming up here over the next couple of days. A very slow-moving storm system. There's going to be round after round of rain. Some of it's going to be severe weather, by the way, so you've got to worry about that. But I think the flooding is the big story here, because I would not be surprised if somewhere in this general area we end up with possibly catastrophic flooding, okay? And I wouldn't use that term very loosely. Definitely not overhyping anything here. This is a lot of water. The ground is completely soaked. and there's a ton more rain on the way over the next couple of days. I just want to remind people that flooding kills more people than tornadoes, more people than lightning, more people than hurricanes. And the thing about flooding is that it's the easiest one to avoid. I mean, you literally have a choice. I mean, most of these flooding deaths occur when people try to cross a flooded roadway. And a lot of the times, trust me on this, it doesn't look like it's that much water, and you're like, oh, I got to get home tonight. Everybody else is going through it. What's the big deal? That's exactly how people die. I mean, in an instant, you get swept away, and then there's nothing you can do. Please don't do that. Seriously, guys.
So you go, a very serious, it looks like the flash flood threat will culminate on Sunday, which is the date that I've been flagging for a while. So I think people do need to take this very seriously in America. It is going to be a danger. I think there is going to be a disaster, and he's used, the meteorologists themselves are now using the word catastrophic flooding. So this is a dangerous, very dangerous situation. I'm just showing you Australia's cyclone and what it's up to, because I did say something might happen on the 27th of April, which was my birthday, to act as a warning of the event on the 30th in America. And yes, well, this cyclone actually formed, the one that I'm just showing here. It's Tropical Cyclone Francis, and it formed on my birthday on the 27th, bang on. So there was something happened against the forecast here in Australia, and also there were tornadoes in the USA. So we're already on the 29th here. It's already the early hours of the 29th in the United States. Yeah, I would just say to people in America, be prepared for a natural disaster, because that does look like what's going to happen. And if there's going to be tornadoes, I would suggest Saturday might be the more likely day, both meteorologically, but I've also got another reason for saying that, and that is, I need to tell you a little story, but I might leave that for another video. So I'll just keep this one about mainly the focus on Sunday and the flooding over the weekend. But if there's going to be tornadoes, I'd say that's more likely to happen Saturday, and symbolically that does make sense in relation to Nathan, but I'll go into that in another video, and I'll leave this one here.